Hey, it's me today. I've been making a mess. Yep, look at this. Can anybody guess what I've been making? Well, here's a small clue. A lot of cream. A lot of cream. I have got a 2-litre full of buttermilk. Oh, and another 2-litre of buttermilk. I don't know how many kilograms of butter. And I've taken some of the butter. So I wanted to show you how I make ghee, because a lot of the butter will go into 250 gram blocks and we'll freeze that. The buttermilk will become scones and rusks, South African currant milk or buttermilk rusks. And this is about 2 liters of fresh homemade butter that I've just made today. I'm melting it down and I'm making ghee from it. Ghee, not to be confused with brown butter or whatever they call it. I don't know, my granddaughter knows what it's called. And if she was here, she would have corrected me. So what I've done is I've melted it down. Going to get a lot of white coming to the surface, and that is the milk solids boiling off. What I'm going to do is leave it on the stove on low so that it's bubbling, and I'm going to leave it for 15 to 20 minutes and then strain it out of the pot so that I've got the milk solids in the bottom of the pot and then the muslin I'm going to strain it with, and I'm left with pure beautiful ghee, just like this one I prepared earlier. No, I did not. That is from last year's ghee making in December. Oh, look at that, 23rd of December 2024. I made about a litre or so of ghee, and I'm at it again. So thanks once more to Verklempt for their amazing saving food from landfill project. Food waste. They do an amazing work in the community, taking food that a lot of the time would just get thrown away, probably most of the time actually, and selling it in the shop in Wigan. And they do a phenomenal job, and we thank them so much for that. Yesterday they sent out an appeal for anybody who wanted cream, double cream, to come and take as much as they wanted for free, which was always such a blessing for us. So here we are today processing it, and I'll be back as soon as it's bubbled for a while. I'll let you see what it's doing. Cut. While I've got you here, I thought I'd just mention that I'm currently using an induction hob. I've got a double one, and the sides have different wattage ratings. This is a 1000 watt on the side, and this is 1800 or 1800 watt on this side. And the reason we're using it at the moment is because of the ridiculous price of gas, and so we stand it on some wooden boards with the gas stove switched off for now. And I have not made ghee on a stove, an induction stove, before. They can be a little bit temperamental, and they certainly take a huge amount of getting used to. They work totally differently to a gas or an electric stove, which obviously gives you constant temperature. It switches on and off all the time. So you'll hear it clicking on, clicking off as it reaches 800 watts, I'm assuming, or no, some sort of temperature. Sorry, yeah, in this case it's watts. And that, let's see, I can turn that down, but I can change between. So here I can change between watts and centigrade. So at the moment, it's on 240 centigrade, which is 1000 watts. And if I turn that down, 800 is 220. That's what it is at the moment. However, I don't know if it's a suitable method for this process, because what you want with the butter is for it to bubble and boil gently, because that way it cooks the milk solids out of the butter. They rise to the top as they're boiling, and then they fall to the bottom of the pot, where they form a crust at the bottom of your pot. And that is what you want. At the end is a crust at the bottom and your clear ghee on the top. And hence, you do not stir it. Once it starts to boil, you leave it be and you let it just cook. If you disturb the solids on the bottom, you have to just leave it for longer so that it boils up and it drops to the bottom again. Now, we'll see. I'll come back in a little while, and once it's boiling, and I'll see if it can maintain a decent bubble, and if it continues to cook reasonably well, even when it clicks on and off the whole time. So I'll let you know. Cut. Before it actually starts to boil, you'll see, when I first showed you the pot, you could still see the butter. At the moment, all the fat solids have come to the top, and that's what's going to boil off. And it's quite a thick layer now, and I have a feeling it's going to try and boil over. So I'm going to turn this temperature down to 600 watt, which is, I don't know, probably 200 degrees. And it's climbing towards the top of the pot. Not good. Okay, going to put it down to 400 and see what happens. I'll be ready to hit the off button. If I can get a picture there, you are just starting to see it boil. It's bubbling through the foam. I think it's subsiding a little, which is good news. What I don't want is it to cook too fast, because then it's going to burn, and you don't want it to burn. So this is the problem with the induction hob. You don't have that lovely gentle static heat, because on the gas stove I would put one of those heat spreaders, diffusers underneath the pot if I needed to, but this you can't. Well, not that I know of anyway. And even if you could, it wouldn't stop the pot from the machine, you know, the mechanism that makes the induction heat go on and off. So I've got to keep an eye on this, because if it starts going too yellow or brown, then it's cooking too quickly, and I'd have to try the gas stove instead. I'll be back. This video is turning into a how to use an induction hob. I have no idea why the light has come on. Anyway, there it's about to go over the top. Please don't boil over, please don't boil over. Oh my goodness, that was so close. In an attempt to get the Celsius function working, you know, as to show you it's on Celsius rather than wattage, I have put it to 60, then 80, did nothing. Now put it on to 100, was too slow. Then moved it to 120, and that was what happened. It went far too quickly. It started to boil. Down to 100 now. We're going to see if that does the trick. We're not boiling at the moment. I don't think I've ever filmed when it's put the flash on. Very odd. I'm going to be very naughty, and I'm going to just try and skim away some of these fat solids. Just there you can see the butter underneath. This foam is all the milk solids, and that's what's going to fall to the bottom and cook on the bottom. It goes brown, and honestly the flavor of that is so gorgeous. You can cook with it as well. You can put it in things and use it. You don't have to throw that away if you don't want to. It makes a lovely food, and add addition to a dish. So you could use it for, you know, frying onions or putting them in scones, savory scones, things like that. Anyway, 100 is appearing to do nothing. It might be thinking about boiling, but it isn't. So if I put it on 120, I can hear it straight away. You won't be able to hear that probably, but it makes a very faint electrical buzzing sound, and you can see it's immediately started to boil. Problem is, it's going to boil too quickly, and it's going to want to rise over the pot. Now this is why I don't like an induction hob very much. I suppose if that's the only thing you've ever used, it's okay, but look at that, 120, way too high. Now if I turn it down to 100, it doesn't stop it quickly enough. So I've got to switch it. No, there you go, it's stopping right at the top. So I might be able to leave it on 100. But I worry that that's too high. You know, there it starts to boil again. I'm going to turn it down to 80 to be on the safe side. I would rather cook it for longer on a lower temperature, if it works, obviously, than have to worry about it constantly on 100, possibly boiling over. And, oh, what we don't want is it to burn your ghee, your butter. Let's see how that works. It's been about 10 minutes and I've just come back. I have left it on 80 degrees Celsius. I think that's probably 100, no, what was it? About 600 watts. I don't know. I don't want to check it right now. Anyway, it's 80 Celsius. And you can see from, I've just moved the top solids, I haven't messed with it. The foaminess, which is the milk solids, have got kind of quite like a peak stiff egg white when it's beaten, really, except they're yellow. That isn't a bad sign. I am still concerned that it's not boiling. So we are going to increase it to 100 and see what it does now. This could all go horribly wrong. At the end of the day, if I need to, I'll just reboil it on the stove. Whoa, no way. That is not what you want. I can imagine, being a jam maker as well, that the layer of milk solids that's formed on the bottom gets air underneath it or whatever. As the heat starts to rise, and that's when you get that like volcanic eruption going on, because that happens in jam as well. So when you're making jam, you have to be super careful if you scrape the bottom of the pot with your spoon, because that normally sends an absolutely violent cloud of hot jam up at you. And of course on your hands is normally where it gets me. I'm not happy with this, guys. I'm going to break off here and move the stove to one side and pick up on the gas cooker instead. I've moved it to the stove, and I better turn it right the way down because we're about to bubble over. Please don't, please don't. Honestly. Perhaps the thing is I should have done this in a bigger pot. What do you think? Because this is definitely flowing over. Oh my word, what a video this is going to make. Look at this. Okay, I've got it on the lowest setting on this ring, and it's still too high. But at least it hasn't completely gone over everything, I suppose. in its attempt to jump out the pot. Okay, I'm going to watch it again. So the stove was dirty beforehand, and you must see it now. Charming, Michelle. I'm hoping that was just a quick one-off because it had started back up again. But I can see the movement on the surface. It is bubbling gently. So from now, I'm going to set another 10-minute timer. I am a little bit happier now. It's only been a minute or two, but it seems to be maintaining a decent, vigorous simmer. I don't know. Low boil. I know, to me that's just like a very fairly hefty simmer. Boiling, I would have expected more bigger bubbles and more plopping noises and stuff like that, whereas this is just gently making gentle bubbling noises. As the butter, as the boiling extracts all of the milk solids from the butter, the surface layer, that puddle of that little layer over here of milk solids will decrease, and you'll be left with a totally clear liquid. At the moment it's still very cloudy, as you can see, so it's got quite a way to go still. I am so nervous to go sit down and leave it, but I have been watching it for a few minutes without any more incidents. So I'm going. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. Came back to this. Wow, 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 wow. But I'm watching it and... Okay. Lesson learned. Next time I will use a bigger pot, especially if I'm going to boil up 2 liters of butter to make ghee. Luckily, at the moment, it's behaving, but it's nowhere close to ready yet because this has to all disappear as it boils away. This will settle to the bottom. I should not be doing this. This is really cheating. Anyway, there you go. Living on the edge, peeps. But it's bubbling. We'll give it another 10 minutes, I think. The bubbling is behaving a little bit better. And if I'm not mistaken, it's got a little bit more yellow as opposed to cloudy yellow. I'm seeing little bright patches in it, which means the fat solids are starting to settle to the bottom. Another 10 minutes and hopefully it'll be done. Let's see. Okay, another 10 minutes or so and I am back, and you can now clearly see a difference. So it looks like it's separating, which is exactly right, because those heavier pieces will start to fall to the bottom. I don't know if it's taking longer because there's such a huge volume. That's what I'm thinking. A couple of things. What did I want to say? Right. It will have had a lot more fat solids to get rid of. Another reason it's probably taking so long, because this is freshly made butter and I haven't rinsed it or put it in ice water yet to get rid of any of the excess buttermilk. So it probably had a lot more buttermilk in this than it normally would have had if I'd bought the butter, or if I had processed the butter by putting it into the iced water and getting rid of the excess buttermilk in it. I think that was the reason. Possibly didn't have anything whatsoever to do with the induction hob, but things are definitely on the move. I'm trying not to get a shadow, but it's not that easy, is it? So there you go. We're going to give it another 10 minutes and I am sure it'll be just about ready. I may have heard that somewhere before. Gosh, 10 minutes later, but it is doing what it needs to do, so I'll just be patient. Might turn the heat up a little bit now that it's not going to foam over. Sorry for the noisy induction hob next to me. The hubster is cooking some lovely salad for dinner. See you in 10. It's only been a couple of minutes, but while I'm here still at the stove, I thought I'd just mention that these little sort of islands of clumps that have formed, those are the milk solids that have sort of clustered together, and they get sort of not crispy, but they get a little bit more solid, and as they do that, they obviously gain weight as well, and then they'll start to fall to the bottom. So this is not too far off done actually. I would imagine the next 10 minutes this will all be at the bottom, but we will be patient and just let it do its own thing. I think we've got the temperature just right now because the top of the butter, the fat solids and the milk solids have started to go brown, and they'll fall to the bottom. They're starting to clump together a little bit, and then they'll go to the bottom, and that is when it's ready. But yes, I think we're doing very well. Just watch it because you don't want it to get too brown too quickly, and if it's going too brown too quickly, then you need to turn the heat down a little, but it does need to bubble. After all that, I'm back eventually. I've let this cool down and I've been putting it into bottles. And if you have a look, I overcooked it a little bit. The last 5 minutes weren't needed, definitely. You can just smell it slightly more caramelly, the bottom, and I'll show you that in a minute. But all I'm doing at the moment is not allowing any of this to get into the glass jars. I'm putting it into, oh yeah, the bottom's definitely too overcooked. You can tell straight away by looking at that. Anyway, I'm going to try and do this without making a terrible mess. Trying to do all of this at the same time. Recipe for disaster, hey Michelle? Okay. By the way, I've warmed up these bottles a little bit because I don't want it to crack when I put the hot liquid in. So I have heated the glass jars up. So what you don't want is to disturb any of that now very well cooked caramelized stuff that's in the bottom of your pot. So we are going to just gently pour this into our glass jars, and I'll get one more. So from my 2 liters, we've actually done really well. These little containers are probably at least 300 milliliters each, and that one is more. That one's probably closer to 400. So 369, 250, 10, 11, 50, and then maybe. So we've got about 1.5 liters. There's possibly a loss of about half a litre of liquid during that whole process, which is not bad. And then I've still got the butter, which has to be cooked up tomorrow. Not cooked up. Thinking of cooking because I'm working on it with a pot. That has to be cleaned up tomorrow. Get rid of as much of the buttermilk out of it as I can. So There you are. Wow, Michelle, you certainly overcooked this batch. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with it, except the fact that slightly it looks darker on the camera than it actually is. But that is all milk solids that are left over. I'll taste it. Caramelly. Tastes a bit like fudge with no sugar in. Very nice. So there I have got a precious load of ghee for the fridge. Got a little bit of little speck in there, but it's fine. Other than that, they're as clear as anything. Isn't that a thing of beauty? Ghee. Make it yourself if you've got lots of extra butter, or if you happen to process. It lasts very well on the shelf. It lasts longer in the fridge, and you don't have to worry about it the way you would with butter going rancid. Fantastic stuff for cooking as well. So have a lovely day, everybody, and get cooking and crafting.